Hello everyone, I'm Phil Rowley. Welcome to my fly tying bench. You know, baby or micro leeches are excellent patterns to have in your box throughout the season, but they really pay dividends in early spring and late fall. My baby leech is one of my favorites, and I've tied it in my favorite color, bruised, black and blue. Join me at the bench and I'll show you how to tie this deadly little pattern. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to watch future videos, please subscribe. And if you want to be notified, hit that bell and you'll get notification of future videos. So let's go to the bench and just show you how simple this fly is to tie. The baby leech is one of my favorite micro or baby leech patterns. It is a simple pattern to tie, and its wire core bleeds through the pattern once wet. The list of materials is short and simple. Don't be afraid to tie my baby leech in other colors as well. So I'm now going to tie you a baby leech. It's basically a mini leech, and it's in one of my favorite colors, bruised, black and blue. Into the jaws of my vise, I've got a Daiichi 4640 jig hook. This fly is going to hang kind of diagonally. It's not balanced and it's not vertical, but under a little surface chop. This worked really well last fall. If you watch some of my blog entries, in particular the fall finale, one of my local area lakes where I live in Alberta, we did really well fishing this throughout the day. So we're just going to use some black tying thread. I've got a black nickel bead on there. It's a slotted bead. It's a 7/64 tungsten or 3mm. And you notice I've got it pushed right up. So if I rotate this around the slot, to help you figure that out, you just sort of twist it, and I'll push it back a little bit, and you just push it forward. You can see that you want to make sure and rotate the bead so it sits tight right up against the hook eye. So once we've got that done, just going to build up a little thread dam to hold it in place. There we go. The body itself will hold it up. So we get a good thread base for some traction for our materials. Going to come back almost to the bead, and we're going to tie in our tail. And our tail is a marabou of sorts, but not traditional marabou from a turkey quill, you know, a turkey plume. This is actually just a saddle hackle, and all this base fibers at the bottom of the feather that we usually toss out make great short, even tapered tails for micro leeches. So I recommend you give this material a try. And I've just stripped off a little clump here. We'll get that tied in. It's just to add a little bit of motion, a little ragged tail there. Moisten it a bit. It doesn't have to be very, we're imitating a very small leech, so we don't need a lot of material in there. So I'm just going to pre-measure. So I've got a tail that sticks out about the shank length. Our beads come off its mount a bit, but we can reposition that. So we'll just bind that down, and I'm lifting up on that clump. Keep it righted on top of the hook shank. Right down. You can see I've got a nice sparse little tail. I moistened it a little bit. And if it's a little ragged, a few little extra plumes sticking out, but that's what you want, that sort of ragged look. And then we're going to add a little bit of flash. And this is a micro leech, so I'm going to use some UV pearl crystal flash in the midge formula. So I'm just going to take very sparse, I'm just going to move the tying thread up, tie a single strand onto the shank on top here. Going to secure one of those strands down the far side, just holding it along, bring the tying thread back up, take that strand that's forward of the original tying point, and now I'm just going to fold that down the sides. I just kind of like my tail sandwiched with a little bit of flash. It probably really doesn't make any difference at the end, and trim them just like so. Just a little bit of flash, very subtle. Now for the body, we're actually going to make a dubbed body. As you probably see my other videos, you know I like to dub, but this is going to use a wire core. So the core for this body is some UTC ultra wire small in blue. And you're just going to pick, if this was an olive bodied one, I would use an olive core. But I've just taken a long strand and I've doubled it. So I'm going to tie in those tag ends. You can see I've got a loop of wire now formed, and I'm just going to secure that wire down the shank, right up, move my tying thread up forward to the final destination, which is right behind the bead. And then we're going to load this loop up with Arizona Simi seal. This is the black blue coloration, one of my favorite colors for leeches, whether it's bit larger balance flies or this small little jig leech, this little baby leech. And to help spin this, you could spin it by hand with a dubbing twister, but if you get yourself a little coffee frother and cut the tag end down, you've got a neat little dubbing tool. This was given to me by Gary Borger, hashtag name drop, but that's who gave it to me. And this, it really helps spin up. But I've got a fairly long length here. You want to make sure you spin a long length of this for a couple of reasons. First of all, you've got to govern this because this really spins. So I actually put my finger again against it to slow it down because there's no speed reduction on this. And also by making a long loop, you know, in a single session, I've got enough of a dubbing brush now, a wire dubbing brush, to do a number of flies. So I'm just going to place this into the bottom of this wire dubbing loop. And then I'm going to take my Simi seal and I'm just going to blend it up a little bit, just pinch it and remix it just to get the fibers aligned. And then I'm just going to pinch out a little bit, and just like a thread dubbing loop, I'm going to load that Simi seal into the bottom of the loop and slide it up. And I'm trying to make sure that I have a nice even loop all the way. And by even I mean there's equal amounts of dubbing. So I'm just going to load this from top to bottom. This will be a loop longer than I really need for this fly, but when I spin it up, I'll have a nice little wire brush for a number of flies after this. And I'm not using any wax in here. I'm just using the weight of the tool to apply tension to that wire loop. That'll help sandwich the dubbing between the wire strands. And if I'm not too aggressive with my movements, I'm not going to knock it out anyway, just like I do when I thread. And the reason I don't like to use the wax is I'm trying to make a translucent effects here, and I just worry that the dubbing wax might mat those fibers down. So now I'm just going to take my finger, and as I turn this on, because if I go too fast, she'll spin and break. So I'm just using my fingers at the bottom of the loop to just act as a governor. And when those fibers radiate out, broke away at the bottom, but my loop is done. And then I'm just going to come in, whoops, not back out of whack. I'm just going to come in with a dubbing brush here and just gently pick at the fibers here, just to free them up. The long mohair strands that are part of this dubbing blend, this Arizona Simi seal, just great stuff. Just want to free them up. Looks good. And then all I'm going to do is sweep my tail back out of the way and wind this forward and treat it like a hackle, if you will. So with each wrap, I'm just taking my thumb and forefinger of my left hand here, because I'm a right-handed tire, and I am just sweeping these fibers back out of the way as best I can. I'm going to give the fly a more aggressive brush later, but I just don't want to trap any of those fibers down. I brush them out to free them up. And then I'm going to come up, over top once, twice, right in there, packing that right behind the bead. And then come in, and if you're going to use scissors, use the back of your scissors to break the wire. And then we're just going to coat our thread. She's a little fuzzy right now. Kind of looks like it fell in the bathtub with a hairdryer. And we'll just tie that off. Get our whip finisher. And the tying portion of our baby leech is done. So now all we got to do is give it a really good brush. Really aggressively. I just come in and really brush this on all four sides like so. And And then when I'm done, I'd give this a steam bath. I'd actually take some hot water and nuke it in a microwave or a kettle, and then just dip this to train those fibers to flow. But this has just been a simple, deadly little fly. It doesn't hang balanced and it doesn't hang vertical. And if you want to cast and retrieve, you get a nice little jigging action with this fly because it's going to pitch and undulate. And if you get it near the bottom, it rides hook point up, so it's less likely to foul. So there you have it. A baby leech in bruised. And of course you could tie this in a myriad of colors. Olives, browns, different combinations. You could mix up the bead colors. Gold, chartreuse, hot orange, you name it. It's a fly with lots and lots of possible permutations. So be sure to add a few of these baby leeches to the leech section in your fly box. It's an excellent fall pattern.